few words about Viesturs, who he is, why is he here, and if I missed something of vital importance, of course, he can add a few words. He has a background, he has managed and co-founded different startups. He actually ran a investment fund at some point, and maybe more recently he has been more into designing and actually delivering different innovation training programs. And actually this year he started his own agency, which is perhaps his main focus in these times. And I think that's briefly it. And the stage is yours.
Great. That's somehow we have set all the technicalities, and then we go into the game. Let me share my screen, and you guys tell me if you start seeing my slides. Yeah. Is it all good?
Yes, we can see
Okay,
it.
thank you.
All
So sorry, I lost you for a moment. I will just rearrange you all around my screen so I can see you well and interact with you if needed and everything. All right. So first of all, when I was invited by Baltic Innovation Agency to talk about some sort of kind of a modeling validation angle to it, then we also discussed with Simo and with Rene. We discussed also a little bit the kind of a general idea what you want to accomplish here. And at least as I've been told here, one of the main things is developing some strategies, right? So developing some strategies for let's call it twin transition, and let's look into that. What I personally mean by that, and how relevant and practical that might be for you guys. It's not just like a fancy word, but maybe there is a bigger idea behind it. But I would tackle this from a very practical standpoint, and I will try to open up you also the process for not only coming up with some assumptions, but just putting them in some strategic context. So basically working on that strategies. And again, I have one workshop with you, followed by one-on-one sessions next week. And by the way, just first come, first serve. Try signing up, please. It's Monday and Tuesday. The slots are published, as far as I know, by Simo, and there are already a couple of teams have signed up. So use the opportunity. Where we would be discussing, if you would like, we would be discussing the practicalities of your particular strategy development, your particular corporate company strategy, if you wish. So, but for today, it's a workshop. So sorry, you'll be working. It's not like a lecture. So expect that you'll be getting hands dirty and pretty much active for most of the time. And then we break. I talk a little. The format will be like I talk a little bit. You do your work. We come back. We, if needed, discuss a little bit. Move on. So altogether, I'm planning 5 tasks for you. If we won't fit in the time frame, I haven't metered this type of a workshop. The 5th is okay to do later, but let's hope that the first 4 we could accomplish here throughout the 3 hours time we're having on our disposal. Yeah, Mark also has republished the link for the signups. All right. So this is from my side shortly. We'll try to make breaks either just by a little bit extending your work, like individual or rather teamwork time, but I'm not that sure how many of you have been joining as more than a person from a company. So I'm not exactly sure how that teamwork's going to go, but this type of strategizing and innovation in general is a teamwork, and this is probably what you already have noticed in your work as well. All right. So what we're going to accomplish today, once again, we do a little bit of intros and technical intros and terminology intros, because I hate definitions, but sometimes we need to just call them out to be on the same page, to understand what we're all talking about. Otherwise, we're kind of have a messy understanding of my expectations and your expectations at the same time. Then we will tackle those twin transition strategy step by step kind of a points. And then we do a very tiny wrap up and heads up for you. What I would expect if we meet next week, what I'm expecting you probably accomplish by then. Okay? Good. Super. Let's move on. So on me, already by nice intro of Simo, I'm not stopping it here too much, but I'm just some sort of a startup return educator if needed for that definition. So I started with my own things with quite a few different companies there, and pretty much ending up again sort of started with a business advisory, but ending up with an innovation and digital transformation advisory, plus working with many startups all over the Europe. So yeah, and advising corporates as well. So this is another thing, another angle to me to come up with new product and service ideas, roughly out of the blue or out of the need or out of something else there. Please raise your digital hand. How many of you have already been accustomed to working in Miro? Anyone? Okay, Halo, very good. Halo is the only one. It looks like. Okay, Yuris has it. Good, very good. All right, the most don't. So what is Miro? Miro is actually a collaborative board. Many of those collaborative software things you have there out there, but it is cool in a sense that it is very kind of versatile. You can actually have you can find templates there for some tasks and activities. You can create your own, you can tailor it, you can ring fence your area and like a team, break it into multiple teams and lots of other beautiful things. You can export things right into your presentations, not necessarily always very nice looking, but still. So that's a Miro. Now, let's go to the definition part. I know it's kind of a lengthy start, but kind of to me it's needed in order for us then to not get back discussing things that are not maybe necessary to discuss. Some discussions, definitions. So twin transition to me, as probably also the material has been shared by you, is a sort of combination achieving some sort of sustainability step up or transition through a digital transition. And a digital transition can be, so first of all, what we think of the sustainability transition. There is this old and quite a famous definition of the United Nations back then. I think it's like a, if I'm not wrong, like a 45-year-old definition, something, no, 35, more likely 35. Then this is actually sort of not compromising future generations' ability to meet their own needs by meeting ours. And I think it's a very nice way to put it. And it's not necessarily only about ecology, because there are plenty of sustainability angles to it. And sometimes in more narrowly defined way, we think about greening or ecological sustainability, but I would definitely invite you, maybe not, for your strategies. But by that, I mean that this is not, a bad thing thinking about the ecological sustainability, but just that sometimes we get tunnel vision by thinking of the sustainability in only that. But for the project's purpose, I think you are primarily into some sort of a green angle or green. So feel free to keep it that way as well. Yeah. Then what is this digital transition? There are two angles to it. It's either digitalization, so it's basically you're making some processes or control on assets or systems digital. Like you can, everybody can think of, you know, paperless receipts and everything like that. But then there is a notion of digital transformation, which is a very different one. And again, I trust that's not you, but I constantly see people like mixing those things up, and they shouldn't be mixed up because they're very distinctively different things in my world. Because the digitalization is making things, making processes or analog or physical systems and workarounds digital, but the digital transformation is something different. It's using digital means to really transform your business, to do something different. So in simple comparison, digitalization is doing things more efficient, and digital transformation is doing different things. Okay, so I think, again, to me, it's kind of an important distinction because often we don't see the potential of growing the business, of scaling the business, of all those things. You can probably, you have in your strategic ambition, we kind of miss out on the ability to transform things digitally. By that, I'm not saying that you always need to do all things digitally, for God's sake. No, and you, all of you, oh, okay, most of you, probably few exceptions, you are primarily the physical products companies or physical services, okay, services around physical products companies, but this is, I'm not saying that you should become like a digital, but just look out for the opportunities, how you can scale it, like different business models, different channels, and everything. In other ways, digital is, you know, about efficiency, and digital transformation is about something new to it. And what's the heck a business model? The last definition from my side, because, you know, I referred already a few times that the transformation incurs new business models. The business model is the way how you're generating revenues. So it's basically how you are generating revenues. So what are you doing? How you're monetizing it? Who's paying? How frequently? How much? And all those things. And those also could be, those are not static. There are things you can sell, there are things you can lease, there are rent, there are things you can actually offer for subscription, there are things you can auction, there are things where maybe some other people pay for some other people's usage, etc., etc. All those represent very, very different business models. And sometimes, obviously, specifically in a physical products world, you're bound to physical unit sale type of business model. But I would really invite you looking a bit further and broader to what else, how what are the other ways how you can move on with monetizing your values, your creative. Okay, are you with me now? Because some of you look very terribly busy, so maybe I'm not part of your day anymore, but hopefully I am. All right, good, lovely. So just in a nutshell, I'm finishing this intro on definitions, which I believe is good, not for talking different things. Just the simple, I think the picture you already seen somewhere. So basically, in terms of most of the digital twin transition things are centered around this area of somehow figuring out digital elements or digital elements to help to become more sustainable or keep being sustainable, etc., etc. Okay, good. Let's move then to the main part. Let's start discussing how you strategize about things. And again, this is what we'll take this digital part in the twin transition in a picture and play around all the assumptions and deconstruct your existing business models around that. But this is generic practice, and I would be happy if you would be using it else into other strategic challenges and contexts as well. Okay, so it's basically how you systematically work in your strategies and implement those. You start with your goals, your ambition and goals, what you want to achieve. So all the strategies start with where you want to go. An ambition is a more kind of a visionary item, and a goals is a more specific thing. Then you identify the opportunities out there, which are not necessarily very clear or understandable, and those are also lots of assumptions there. But then you prioritize, you set sort of focus, because definitely you can't work with all the opportunities out there at once, given all the limited resources you're having. As one smart person once used to say, that the good strategy starts with the notion what we're not going to do. And I'm sort of agree to that. Strategy is narrowing down things instead of, jumping after all the opportunities what are out there. Then you look what you've got, and we'll be like specifically talking in this context about the products and services you want to develop or you want to improve. And I'm also Bia guys shared with me your current ideas about your pilot projects, and so I know a little bit where it all goes. There are some processes to be improved, internal processes. There are some new products. There are some, something in between, like a product related items, which are not exactly the products, like data and everything. So it's interesting. Quite a few e-commerce solutions, but let's see where we go with that. Okay, then you develop. Okay, you assess what you kind of deconstruct your existing business models, and then you assess what you have. What are those key elements? How it operates now, and then you develop assumptions. What needs to be changed in order to move from where you are, the product, the process, the service, whatever's there, into where you would like to be. And then, because those are just assumptions in the first place, you better try to validate them, to test them. Are they right or are they wrong? Because the biggest risk is that you probably undertake too much of a time and resource commitment into building something that is not going to fly for some reason. So quick validation of whether you need to be doing that, and whether there is a kind of a justified reason of doing that is probably the key thing for all sorts of building your products and services, for all sorts of innovation. Not to sort of avoid the wrong moves, not doing something that you shouldn't be doing, because actually companies suffer most if they're, and maybe in your entrepreneurial journeys you can agree that companies suffer most if they actually are set to build something that shouldn't be built, or set to sort of undertake activities that they shouldn't be undertaking, because it's expense, it's time, it's enthusiasm, and you lose it all. All right, so you validate them very practically, and then you out of that you just prepare the execution and execute. The last two things to be said, it's outside of our today's discussion, but I'll try to get you down to the 0.6 in a quick manner. So let's see how we go with it. All right, let's start with the first one: defining ambition and setting your goals. Can you articulate again? And one thing is important to, I know that most of you are like one person per team, one person per company here. But I would really invite you, maybe outside of the scope of this workshop, really to work with your teams and have, you know, decision-making people in that team. Not necessarily in all companies, those are you. Because it's a rather serious thing to really defining the strategic ambition. So what is the current ambition, if you have any, both on the sustainability and on the digital transition side? What kind of domain specific they are? Is it about building new products? Is it about improving existing products or services, for the matter? Is it of inventing new business models, like, for example, doing something on subscription based, as it previously was pay as you go based, or doing it anyhow differently in that sense, opening up a new channel, opening up a some sort of a new partnership, or whatever is there, right? Or is it a process, primarily process thing? There is a certain process which is either suboptimal or not sustainable in the longer run, and you want to do something about it. And it's perfectly okay that it's purely in one domain. Actually, there will be not that many situations where this will kind of be equally spread. There is, you know, the process, new product initiative, and that requires the change of the process or something. There's definitely in one of those domains, or max two domains, not all of them. What is the time horizon for that ambition? Is it something that you want to achieve in a short term, meaning under the year, or should or could, right? Is it like a midterm ambition? Let's say 3 years. Those are rough ideas. We all have different perception of what's near and mid, but or it's more longer term ambition. Is it like something you're building towards gradually towards in further future? And out of those prerequisites, thinking about your digital ambition, thinking about your sustainability, environmental on a broader sense, can you, and all those things, all those elements you should be changing, products, processes, services, business models. Can you define a twin transition ambition? And maybe you can't, it's perfectly okay. Starting to work with those ingredients is important. How you articulate it later, it's a matter of work, actually. Not expecting exactly from you that today, unless you have already carefully ironed it out and thought about it. Okay? And the other thing is, can you articulate those ambitions into goals? As you remember, the abbreviation acronym SMART goes for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So the goals should be specific, not broadly pitched. They should have some metrics attached to them. They should be achievable in a sense that they're in a scope of whatever your limitations. They should be relevant because in a sense that they're building towards those ambitions you already outlined, and the time bound, meaning that they should have a deadline in one or other way. Not necessarily like a strict deadline, but at least a perception of the time window. Okay? Are you with me? Already, you're tired, as if no, okay, I know, I'm kidding. Actually, listening is often more difficult than talking, especially if I'm talking like my turf, my subject domain. So let's try it out how it goes, guys. So I would offer you, and this isn't a first task. This is some are my compilations, some are simplifications of some concepts I've seen out there and worked with. Some are direct copy paste, so don't worry. That's all fine. So I would offer you working to this twin transition ambition map, in a sense that you can identify, work it bottom up, identify into those product or business model and process, or near mid long term, something that is related to your digital transition and or sustainability transition ambitions, and then define those, like work from anything in those lower 3 to 3 quadrants twice, moving into up, moving into, if you can, into the top row, and defining your twin transition ambition. Yes, Mart.
I think there was a question from somebody turning on the mic, but I'm not sure who it was. It was just a brief.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
It was a quick idea for me.
Yeah,
Hi,
Christian.
It's just wanted to ask, like, this map we're looking at the moment, is it something that we should already start to write on while listening to this, or later in the coaching
beautiful
session?
question, Christian. You will be given like 20 minutes for that.
Okay.
Right out after I finish now. Okay.
Okay.
Good. Because those are also, as you probably have noticed, those are into the mirror, right? In the task 1. Thanks, Mart, for heads up. I was taken by whatever I was doing. I didn't say Christians.
No worries. And I guess I can also add that, I think today's workshop exercises that Viesturs has designed for us are also great for the action plans that we'll be developing eventually. So it's a thought process that anyways needs to be gone through some point before the pilots start next year. Why no better day than today to start.
Yeah, exactly. That's why this will be long and heavy packed day for you guys. But this is just the idea, Mart. You got it exactly how I want. Just to bombard you with all sorts of things that you can use it later. Now it's like a sneak peek. Now try doing something. Don't stop it there. And I'm happy if Martin, Simo, you guys can also use this as for revisiting where the teams stand. I'm super happy with that. That was a purpose actually of that. All right. So this is the first thing where you can like describe that this is the ambition part, and then the other part is this goal definition thing. And I would really probably, if I would be, I'd focus just on the maybe again starting with those goals, articulating them in those measurable sort of ways for the digital transition, digital transformation, if you wish, and then subsequent also the sustainability, but then be specific on how you can, what would be those goals for example, the project. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is something that you can probably utilize as for the specific ones for the project. Any questions to this point? I think doing is the king, right? All right, guys, now let's go for it. So go on the Miro, find your working space, team space there. If you are more than, if you're more than one from the team here, yeah, thank you. Someone already opened the breakout rooms. So you can enter the breakout rooms at the where like your company's name on it, and then discuss it there as a team. If you're just one of you here, then perhaps you can stay here, but you also can go into the room, because if you want some digital privacy, then you'll be alone there. Then get on the Miro board like I told, and then try to really think in this way. Try to navigate yourselves through the ambition map, maybe getting to the twin transition ambition, maybe stopping in this product process, business model level, perfectly okay. And then try probably thinking also towards those specific goals. And one thing I will keep repeating and repeating, when you're working in Miro, I highly suggest you use the post-it notes. You stick a post-it on whatever canvas or whatever map we're using, and then you write on the note, because that's the easier way how to change things, how to populate. You can then just discard one note, and then you don't have to sort of redesign all and rewrite. Lots of things have been associated with them. So try, like literally as you would be working in a brainstorming in a real life with post-its, right, on a wall or whatever surface. Try mimicking this there as well. It's much more efficient. If you feel, not at ease with working with Miro, that just try to zoom into those spaces of the ambition map and goals canvas and like copy, the structure, this on a paper if it's easier. It's perfectly okay. It's not like one recipe fits all. Is it understandable, ladies and gents? Okay, wonderful. Then let's be back 10 minutes past 3 for the first quick round of discussion. So how did it go? Yeah. How did it go? Was it too quick?
Well, we would still need some more time.
Few hours. I know. Richard. That's this is not the. That's not a bug. That's a feature, as they used to say. That's exactly what I want with you now. That you a little bit get your hands warm, and then you probably eventually at some point can carry it on. But anyway, it is much more realistic than SW, because the SW is self-assessment, and we tend not to be very sort of sincere often to what how we perceive ourselves. So this is not even OT. This is more of a kind of a, think of this as a slider where you can say, okay, is it like everything is against us, or everything is for us, or it's some midpoint to that? I'm offering again a super simple opportunity mapping map. How tautological that is sounding. Now, and this is the simple idea. Again, this will be for the second task, and this is fillable with post-its and everything. You have these 7 areas and come up with everything on top of that, and try to think, what are the pluses and minuses? What are the pros and cons in customer and market moves, customer behavior, cultural trends, technology trends, regulatory context, supplier partners, supply chain, basically alternative solutions, if any, and some macroeconomic forces. And then just in each of those, like sort of try to, and it's a slider. You can do it's 1.5, or it could 3.5 or something. Think of this lower line as a slider where it is. So if that's fine, that's all the tailwinds, everything is blowing in your sail. And if it's a 1, it's really a very challenging situation with any of those. Why this exercise is to me sometimes has been useful. You can actually define the focus, what you're tackling, okay, what your biggest effort goes, because remember, the strategy is the focus. It's not we do everything. Where you need to put your biggest effort, sometimes in moving forward, or sometimes defensively. This is also the idea, right? If everything is very risky and challenging and bad in one of those opportunity domains, then we have to focus onto the mitigating that. Okay? Are you with me? Okay, some are. Yeah, okay, Martis, that's important because that's someone who will kick your butt later. Okay, wonderful. Now let's jump onto the second one. Again, the second exercise. I promised you lots of work. Again, the same thing. Go find the team task on your space, and then try to populate with the post-its that opportunity map of yours, and try to score that single opportunity domain in some scale. Again, it's not like a full numbers, it could be fractions and whatever you want there, but just for your own thinking process. It's not because I asked you. Try to work through the thinking process, identify the biggest kind of challenging areas, identify the biggest opportunity areas, and then as a result, when you would see on your task 2 on the Miro board, on the right hand side from this little map, I was showing you, there are sort of current strategic focus areas. You can list them out. You can say we focus on, for example, securing our supply chain. Okay, because there is an eventually issue, or on other hand, we have, you know, this or also delivery, you know, some sort of a thing fixed because there is an opportunity, you know, and maybe some delivery platforms which are peer-to-peer deliveries and everything, which can go for a low amount of, I'm just making it up, which can go over lower shipments and everything. So try to, again, nail down out of those opportunity and threat sort of or challenge analysis, nail down few things you should keep an eye on, and let's call them the current strategic focus areas. Okay, either where the activities could yield the returns, or where you can really address, because it will, if not looking at that, it will be bad in a year or in 2 years. Okay, again, try using post-it notes and not writing to the whiteboards directly, but of course feel free to do whatever you want to do. All right, guys, welcome back. Yes, you just feel me. Yeah, okay. All right, welcome back, everyone. Appreciate cameras on, all that stuff. All right, again, was super quick, but at least have you identified few strategic focus areas, or you left with the within the opportunity domains. Anyone? Okay, everyone's already tired, so the best part is yet to come. So let's move on the best part, and we're really indeed a little bit past time, but I'll show you some principles, then you can reapply later, and maybe we can squeeze 2 tasks in one. Now, so fine. What do you now? You have some sort of outlined your strategic ambition, thought of goals, identified areas where you should keep an eye on, and then it kind of would distill themselves into some ideas of change. Again, and this is something you already have thought before. Those are your eventually the pilot projects and whatnot. But this is the same way you can come into your ideas about other things you might be doing. Okay, so this is, to me at least, it's kind of generic way how to think, how to get from strategic ambition, from the wider pitched goals into the particular activities. Okay, someone has mic on, or was I? Okay, maybe okay, let's move then on. Next thing is assessing the existing situation. All of you have products and services and processes and an existing business model. And if you think about that focus area which you want to change, I would invite you to look into what you have there. And this is what it's called deconstructing a business model. So you have paying customers, you are having those services or products, or for the processes, you have internal customers of those processes. There are certain processes which are, related to some job functions in your organization or involves the other stakeholders in one or other way. So I would invite you starting with it, because sometimes we're kind of, the things are doing well and we never look into why and what are constituents, what are the moving parts of that construct of that business model we're operating with the product service, but also internally as a process. So my invitation is always to do a little exercise on deconstructing the business model. So it's basically you break apart, you break down, not to break apart, but you break down the constituents of why this thing is working good, or why this thing is working as it's working. What are the constituents of the context and the situation? And for those of you who have done a classical, because I was announced as doing a business modeling, this is a kind of a other way around thing, like deconstructing something you're existing, and then you can model onto the change, right? Because you need to know the context and need to understand what works and what doesn't, potentially, and what needs to be changed and what definitely doesn't need to be touched. And for that, you need to break, down your working business in elements. Okay. So you decide on which one you're focusing as a result of all those strategic exercises we did before. And then you deconstruct your existing. Is it a product? Is it a process? Is it a service? Is it some sort of a specific business model towards one of the customer segment? Doesn't matter. Yes, Martin.
Yeah, I wonder that with this exercise, does it make sense for them to focus on the pilot that they're doing within the project, which is an innovation or an activity regarding one of the products or services or processes? Whereas before we talked about the overall strategic aspect.
Yeah.
With this modeling, maybe to pick the pilot they have for the project,
Yeah,
or do you
exactly.
think it's?
No, this is, I would invite, this is why I will be combining this task 3 and task 4, because the pilots, as far as I looked at them, they're very different. They're ranging from improvement of something existing down to pretty much new things. There are also some new products there, right? So the entire logics of this exercise is try to map what we are doing now, and then to add or subtract something that we need to change, okay? And the third one is just mapping, and then the pilots or their transition activities is more into the fourth task, okay? But they're pretty much combined or joint, kind of a joint value. All right. So deconstructing the existing business model, including for processes, because they also have the ways you operate those processes. And there's classical, we'll use a super classical format of the business model canvas, and some of you are sick and tired of using it and think is no value, but I'll try to sort of bring forward my point that this is actually a very practical tool. So I would probably invite you to change the view that this is super theoretical. No, this is super practical actually. So, but there are a couple of, in each of your businesses or process, in each of your product service offerings or processes, it has certain constituents in there. First of all, there is certain customer. It's not everybody, this is a certain customer, a B2B customer, B2C customer, internal customer who's using and is kind of affected by the processes in question. Okay, there's a certain customer, they have a certain characteristics which they aren't, and there are certain needs or problems that you're solving or needs you're fulfilling. Outline this one. What is your current customer or whatever? Maybe the closest product or service or the existing process, you choose. Then you look into what are the key value props? I mean, what is the sticky part? Why are they choosing you? There's plenty of offerings out there. Is it a customer service? Is it the just, on-time deliveries? Is it the cost? Is it the quality? Is it the proximity? All those are eventually, I'm just making it up, but you think for yourselves. What is the value? For the process, internal processes, what are those things that currently are on a table? What, by the process, what is accomplished? What has been achieved? Then, how actually they in case of product service externally, how where they can buy it? Physical store, online, all that's delivered, all those things matter because they could be changed and they could be actually transitioned into maybe a digital domain or something. The same is actually the process part, how they interact. Maybe it's not important, the channel is not that important for the process, but still. Then the next thing is how they make that decision, how they find about you in the first place. What would help make them the decision? Is it the referral? Is it the testimonial? Is it the influencer? Is it the grandma? Is it a senior colleague which kind of says that this is important to do? I don't know. The next thing is, what are the key resources at your end in order for you to run the existing process or offer the product or service? You definitely have some set of competencies, some assets which are important, like critical ones, the key ones, not pen and paper, most likely, unless you're writing books, it's not that key asset. Maybe some particular know-how, maybe some other things. What is under your possession and your control that you need to keep delivering, keep running the business? Then, if there are any partners, because it could be perfectly okay that you're not critically relying on whatever you're offering internally or externally on any partners, but it could be you are any partners that can sort of make or break your business. If someone says no, I don't know, maybe that is a landlord, and in a very, in services, it's super typical is that the service is typically a very site-bound. So if it's not on a high street, that maybe it's not doesn't convey the value. So maybe you're critically, and this is just one example, you can be also critically relying upon other partners, which you should be kind of collaborating. Are you collaborating? Then key activities. What are those specific activities, if any? It's not about the manufacturing and selling, but maybe there are some know-how bound activities. Maybe you are the only ones who can do that. And that's why that is an advantageous for your value proposition. And the two last questions, how you currently monetize it? Do you sell by item? Do you sell maybe you rent something? I don't know, there could be other subscribe, like offer subscription, offer one time use, offer some sort of a platform fee, for example, that someone who is on your platform pays 20%. I'm just making it up, not most likely not in your case, but probably makes shares the revenue with you by utilizing your offering. And what are the key cost items? So those classical 9 things, what are the key cost items? I mean, of its deconstructing your business models. Is it the raw material critical item? Is it the personnel cost critical item? Is some fixed cost more critical? But first of all, you need to maintain some infrastructure, something, without any idea whether they will be paying customers or not. Right? Those are called fixed costs, which are actually incurring anyways. And the variable cost is something that it is related to how big is the operation. If you manufacture and sell more, you have more of that. If you do not sell more, you have less of that. Okay. This is the thing. This is the business model canvas. Some of you have seen it many times. Some of you have seen it for the first time. It's okay. It's not a rocket science. You exactly go in the following order: customer segments, value props, channels, customer relationships, key resources, key partners, key activities, revenue streams, and cost structure. And yeah, I just want to do a very quick exercise again, starting and throw. And one thing about those things, just come up with everything. Don't hesitate. Don't overthink that. Okay, is it that or isn't that? You will fine tune and polish that later, both for the working business models and for the ones you will be working to actually get to go, which will be the next task. So my invitation, guys, is that in order to save our time, let's do both things together. So it's basically I will explain the fourth task, and then you can play with only the differences between the task 3 and task 4. So first of all, again, getting on the board and trying to populate. Think of existing, the closest process or the process to improve, the closest product or service. You do it. This is for something that exists. And if that your pilot, as for some of you guys, is completely differently new product, skip this exercise. Focus only on the fourth, rather. But I would invite you really to also sort of deconstruct your existing businesses, because it can help you to come up with a very good assumptions on what exactly is going to be changed. Now for the next ones, okay, let's assume you've done it, and then you look into your, for example, project, into this transition project, and then develop assumptions on all of those blocks. So you have this one, okay, with the new product or service, is that the same customer? Yes or no? If no, what are the context of the customer? What are those customers? What are those problems you're solving? Because eventually this is not the same thing, right? The same for the value prop. Is it the same value proposition keeps, or we are just enhancing it with some other sticky elements? Why they are be using and buying our product? What is the biggest value we bring to our customers? What we, or not that we bring, but we're supposed to bring, because it's a new idea. Okay, do all the channels, all the sales channel, or all the customer relationships of how you attract their interest and make them to decide, is that going to change? Maybe that is something you're transitioning into digital channel. How does user experience change? What is other changes for this your internal resources and potential partnerships? Okay, what are the things you need to be doing differently and new, or maybe some things are not longer there? How does the revenue model change? Because again, offering a new product, you have the fair chance that you can charge it differently. Maybe there is a cost structure change as a result. And for the processes, once again, I keep reiterating the process thing. For the processes, don't think of the revenue model directly. Of course, it's because it's more of a size of the savings or whatever efficiency you're getting out of it. So you can keep the revenue part blank, but for the rest, you're basically pretty much the same. You have internal customers, you have all users, all decision makers within a process and everything. Okay, let's combine those two in one and spend 30 minutes all together. So team tasks 3 and 4. Feel free, if you're if you need to prioritize, do the team task number 4, and then you can deconstruct your existing businesses and existing products later. I would highly advise doing that, because it's sometimes and often actually for for the operational companies, it's probably the most valuable. But for having us some data, some flesh for moving forward with the fifth task, which I'm explaining and will let you with it until we meet. Let's, if you can't do like existing business model deconstruction and new assumptions, do the new assumptions. Is it okay? Is it understandable? And I have apologies for this is really 4.5 hours workshop instead of 3, but that was my inability to compile and meter in a proper way. Okay, back to Miro's and try to populate it with the ideas. And I would probably put it, and we're back like 35 past 4 for my last round of information, and then I and sort of a task 5 is left to be until we meet. Okay, 4:35. Good. And I will, guys, since you're not visiting the breakouts anyway, I will that tame, not that tamed for you, whatnot. I think this is exactly because you might, if you want to, you're welcome to work on that for entire length of the project, right? And also I'll be, those slides of today will be shared, and all the Miro links, and after also the meetings next week we'll be able, I think I'll be able to just by being around to maybe render and a bit of advice too. So don't worry about that. Just try to go through the process of thinking in that respect. Anyone say very, very quick, because I really want to finish on time, which is already kind of an issue. But very quickly, anyone wants to share the idea about their biggest unknowns and uncertainties or things you need to clarify about when you're introducing your no transition idea? Anyone? Like really none? Okay, because I kind of looked what you're doing there, but if someone is happy to talk about that, I'd be appreciated. I don't really want to point the kind of fingers to feel people like awkwardly punished just by the fact that you're having the cameras on or something like that. It's not the way. Okay, if not, then not. But once again, come prepared. Think about that, and we will be discussing it during our one-on-ones, right? Every single detail. That's what I'm looking forward. And please sign up. I think there was this link, so please use it and please sign up. So okay, let's summarize where we stand with all those things. So first of all, you have this bigger outline, the bigger strategic ambition, certain goals, identify the opportunities out there. What are the things what can actually give you some advantage, or what are the things you should be carefully watching in order not to lose the existing one? Then you look into what are the basic elements, the constituents of your existing products, services, and processes. Then you kind of hypothesize about what you need to do differently, because in some cases that's entirely different new product and everything's different, but in some cases it is pretty much the same thing you have done before, just with some iterations, some nuances. Maybe the channel is different, the communication is different, the resources you need are different, maybe the revenue model is different eventually. So something along those things. Yeah, once again, thank you, Simo. This is the link. All right, but feel free to to sign in those slots which are still open. So let's discuss what you do afterwards, and this is kind of the most important thing. I will leave you with the ideas or with the thoughts for you to think about when we are going to meet, because there will be also some kind of a summarizing task for you, or a kind of invitation for me what I would like with you to discuss when we meet. But depending where you stand, feel free to choose a different angle to it. Okay, so the first thing is, if you're developing anything new, any innovation, process, product, service, business model, you pretty much please consider that those things that are not there yet, which are not part of your existing actual and operating business model, are guesswork. That's a big idea. So you think that this is what you would need, you think that the customers will be those, you think that they will going to pay you this amount of money, and all those are hypotheses actually, because unless you have this paying customers with existing product, that's different, that's true. You can say, okay, our customers are like these, and they are shopping in like this channel, and they're reacting to those marketing messages where we're sending out, or direct sales, or whatever's there. But if you build something new, that this largely is, those are unknowns, and this is a guesswork. And the biggest risk of building, and back to what I was mentioning earlier, the biggest risk of building anything new is that you are actually building something that is either not needed, or not possible to implement, or doesn't make sense to do, because it's, for example, there is no business. You can't keep doing it because costs and all the hustle and effort overweights the potential benefits, right? So the entire idea of doing anything, any sort of innovation, whatever you think about this very depreciated word, is to actually come up with lots of assumptions on how it's going to look like, and then carefully and quickly and possibly painlessly test them before you invest too much money and a resource in it. So this is the basic idea in everything. So you test them, you do those experiments. So the methods are very different, and with some of you test whether someone needs it, with some of you test whether you can do it, with some of you can test whether there is a business, whether someone's going to pay money. Of course, there's different degrees of uncertainty. There are few things that you can actually borrow from your existing business models, and there is some completely unknown things. And of course, urgency. Sometimes you need to make your business decisions when you need to make them, not in whatever year's time. And each experiment, you can always think along the lines, it has some cost, some time to set up and run, and some kind of strength of evidence. So some are more precise tests, and some are less precise tests. The general principle and a general rule is that you start with cheap, fast, and less precise tests, and move into the more expensive tests over time, where you already reduce the risk that you're completely going in the wrong direction with it, whatever you're building. This is kind of an yes, Halo.
I have a question. It's related to that. If you develop something new, and yes, how do you determine if it's something that is needed on the market? Because on the other hand, there is a possibility that at first it would take a lot of effort to make customers, like future customers, understand that this is something they could really benefit of. And I mean, where do you draw that line? Thank you.
A great question. Thank you so much. Wonderful question. My general cynical answer would go that if you end up in a situation where you have to evangelize, to educate your customers, right? That's a bad place to be. because most of small companies would never afford it. You know, Apple taught us that the touch screens are better than the feature phones, right? But this is a big company. It took a time and effort. And if we look in the smart those touchscreen saga, then they were definitely not the first ones to try, right? So it's basically, the idea is that you try to really understand, and sometimes it's a very niche early adopter, right? Which understand again, this is I'm super happy to elaborate on that if we meet next week, but general answer is try really to stick to those who already somehow get what you're doing. And if there's no one who gets what you're doing, that you're just too early to market, and let's admit it, or look for other markets. Because it's one of my favorite concepts is this product market fit thing. And basically people get it wrong. The simple message of the product market fit is that the market wins everything. It's, you know, you can be the best product, the best team, the ingenious idea, but for some reason the market is not for that. Too early, not ready to pay. You can think of things, and you will be doing much worse as bunch of high schoolers out of hackathon with something they needed yesterday, right? Most likely that the other team will be doing much better than whatever Stanford PhD graduates with the first thing, because there is not, you know, market is like is a terrible force. You, as sometimes in old school times, they're cynically said, you better sell what they're buying, right? It's something along those lines. So but wonderful question, actually. And there are ways around it. It's ways around how to like niche down and nurture early adopters and do super unscalable things to build, you know, the trust and community. But that's super difficult. But thanks, Halo, for the question. Great. All right. So how you do it? Again, you can do it in any ways you prefer, how you plan the experiments. But there's another little tool that is helpful, at least to me, which is that you actually structure out, you outline those, and I'll like briefly run through all of the potential groups of the experiments and tests, and you then think for yourselves and tick which are appropriate for you and which are not. But basically, the general idea is you set your assumption. You think that your customer is that one and pays this one, or your internal stakeholders for the process are these ones, and this is what is broken in their lives, and this is what that makes them unhappy and not willing coming to the office on Monday or whatever is there, right? So it's basically there is an assumption, and it's ideally if you can break it, right, like really narrow it down to some binarity in a sentence, like we believe that, because then eventually you can say yes and no, or in a real life more like of a more likely yes and more likely no. Then you pick what the experiment method you're using because of all this uncertainty and cost and time and everything involved, and what you can do and what you can't. Then you set some metrics. So what are you measuring? And this is kind of understandable for quantitative tests, where you can count, you know, answers in a survey or something. But this is equally important in qualitative tests, like interviews, for example, we'll talk about in a second. Try to look into what are the things. Those will be very unstructured, but you still can try to count some reactions or count some other features what are happening there. And the so-called pass-fail criteria. So where you believe that you're right or wrong. Why it's important? Because we as a human beings, we tend to prefer good news to the truth. And that's the biggest one single, to me, it's the single biggest problem in innovating, in building new products or services, because we hate that we're wrong. But most likely on many, if not most of our initial assumptions, we are wrong, because it's a guesswork. And in order to preserve our ego, in order not to, punch our ego, we then are actually very, very keen of interpreting the answers in our favor, right? Or interpreting the data in our favor. And this is a very costly mistake, because eventually you then can have a big risk building something that no one needs and actually no one appreciates. Okay, so put it right. Let's start quickly. Let's go really briefly, because we have like literally 10 minutes, briefly through the experiments. So customer interviews from exploration, so-called, and this is all will be on your Miros, and look through them and look what you can do, what can't. Customer interviews is definitely the most efficient early exploration experiment. It is talking to potential, if we talk about the new product, or existing, if you're about elaborate on the existing product customers, by not selling them anything. This is just getting in their head, just understanding their worldviews, their purchasing behaviors, the usage behaviors, and all that stuff. And the best way to do that is not overscribe, like not a very strict structure of your interview, but basically asking those, let them to drift them into the directions they want, but of course not outside of your body of interest. Okay, because if you're interested into given domain in a given situation or use case, don't let them depart out of it, but otherwise let them talk, because the most important thing is getting them into this storytelling, not like answering your questions, but telling what's wrong with this and what's wrong with that in their own words. And the best way is to do it by open-ended questions. So these are the questions you don't answer by yes or no. Instead of asking, do you have a problem? Ask, what was the last time you encountered whatever it was, right? Because it triggers a kind of a more explanatory view. Then there's another types of interviews, expert stakeholders interviews. Don't mix them up with the customer interviews, because this is about market trends and whatever movements. Not necessarily all experts or stakeholders in your industry are your customers, right? They might by coincidence be your customers, but don't keep them separately. The customers are the demographic, the companies or the individuals which you believe are, but if those experts are just experts and know how the industry moves, it doesn't make them potential customers. But definitely people who are cure children diseases, but to give a very blunt example, but the fact that they don't have children disqualifies them from being your customer. Okay, that's the idea. Partner suppliers, the same thing. You can definitely talk to all those stakeholders involved in order to early identify and surface issues or potential benefits of that partnerships or other collaborations. All these people, especially the customers, will lie to you, again, not because they're bad people, but because they're kind of already intuitively know what's the answer you're expecting. So often to strengthen the evidence of the interview, especially the customer interview, you can try agreeing on this stalking thing, right? On this so-called day in life. So you observe with permission. If you observe your customers in some sort of action, it's much more informative than asking them about that action, right? Because in the first case, they are performing the action. In the second, they're reflecting on that performance. And they might be very biased in that. The next one is discovery survey. Somewhat similar, we are still in exploration and super early things. Discovery survey is somewhat similar to the interview, but with a different technique. So you also want to understand their worldview, but in here you do it other way around. You quantify it. That's why the closed-ended questions, yes or no, on a scale from 1 to 5. Out of those 10 issues, please pick the 3 most pressing. Rank these functions of my product or service in the following order, and from the best to the from the most useful to the least useful. All those things, because surveys help you to gather data points. So in my world, they are actually supplementing the customer interviews. They're not replacing them, because the customer interviews is for figuring out the trends and then designing the interviews and then nailing it to the larger data set. That would be probably my way about the exploration as such. Then there is a different type of group, a method, so-called data analysis. There could be also specific your industry data, and please do analyze them. But there's lots of other things out there you can actually be get very valuable data from. Search trend analysis. If you're B2B or long tail B2C or long tail B2B, just look up on Google Trends, Google Keyword Planner, which is largely free services. Does anyone ever looks for that service, or looks for that product, or looks for this whatever you're about around to do? Web traffic analysis. This is, again, if you have already your sites, you can see what are the things people are kind of looking, and you can deduct what are the things that probably missing there, they're not finding. Discussion forums, beautiful place where you can actually analyze, but this also goes with all the reviews as well, Amazons and Googles and whatnot. You can look how people, what they appreciate, what they don't, what they like, what they don't like, what they talk about, what they complain, what's wrong with existing solutions. So plenty of information out there. Again, depending on where you are. If you're like a very corporate B2B, then most likely not. Online ads, link tracking, those are things that you can actually combine into running ad campaigns, which are pretty much like landing onto maybe your landing page we'll talk about a second, but also just to discover the interest. Is there anyone reacting? The same goes with email campaigns, and most importantly social media campaigns. You can run a small campaign in social media about the context or the need or the problem before you actually suggest any solution, and look if the people just generally interact with that. Email campaigns, the same. It's also very useful for B2B. You can actually test things if you have especially existing customer base. You can test new things, test interest about new things with them quite simply. Yet you have to build all the the set of metrics around it in order to really interpret what they're going to do, who's clicking, who's unsubscribing, etc. We move into discussion prototypes. This is a prototype, but not exactly a prototype. This is something you're not letting out of your hands. This is very low fidelity things. Again, for physical products, you can do 3D prints, you can do paper prototypes, styrofoam, cardboard. You can do storyboards, which is about services, how you do this and that, and how you register, and how you onboard it, and how you order, and how you check out, and everything. It could be storyboards. Think about just very be creative how you can tackle it. Data sheets and brochures. Data sheet is actually something that you already do a spec of your product, and this is a beautiful thing you can show your suppliers and partners. Is that spec fulfillable from their side? But this is also something to be discussed with your customers if they are up to the standard, sometimes B2B, to understand the spec of your product. For example, brochure is pretty much a combination of storyboard and data sheet, where you can actually do it more engaging and user interaction way. Explainer video, same thing. You can explain things before you build them. with the wireframes, with mock-ups, with everything. There's a famous story about Dropbox explainer video. Maybe some of you have heard that the people who did, you know, the first file exchange, which was in the commonality, like 12 or whatever it was, 13 years ago, they actually published an explainer video just with some screenshots, random screenshots, that how roughly it would be look like. It would look like, and then in 1 month they got like over 200,000 signups for testing that beautiful thing, and then decided finally to build it. Boomerang is just a fancy word of letting other competitors' product to use by not hiding it, and then talking about that usage. Pretend to own. This is just a very low-fi idea how you do something, wearables, for example, or any other thing, and just pretend that this is a full-fledged thing that you actually are using just by carrying it around and looking whether it's clumsy or not. Now we move to more bit higher fidelity prototypes, clickable prototypes. For all the digital products, you don't need to write a line of code. You do it on Figma, any other no-code solution, and you can actually prototype the user experience very nicely. Single feature MVPs. You focus on one element, maybe one junction, one thing is the most important. The rest is the abstraction level is okay, and they can actually live with that. Life-size prototype. This is a full-fledged prototypes. You can combine with mock sales or even pre-sales. Try selling them. That's the way how you test whether they're really interested. Concierging, it's a beautiful, wonderful way of testing things where you don't have the automated product, then you do it as a manual service. So it's basically you don't have whatever you intended to have, some calculation engine or something, and you do it manually. Why it's important? You see what they're asking. You see what your customers are asking. Otherwise, you wouldn't figure out what they're asking, and then you build around that use case. Maybe no need for doing other use cases as well. Mashing up is doing, combining your prototype or minimum product of off-shelf components, or maybe parts of competitors' products if you're not hiding it. Call to action. Sorry for my speed. Sorry, guys, but I'm kind of want to honor your time as well. Landing page. Again, landing page is a simple website dedicated to your product or service. And feel free to do the landing pages even which are separate for you from your websites for your new projects, because that's the way how you actually can avoid the risk of failure, that if something goes wrong, you might say that you're not associated with the project anyhow. Don't think that this all your digital product or channel experiments should be happening on your side. Not necessarily. You can put it again with no code, put it up with no code memes very simply, and then you can do it a few of them and run so-called A/B split tests. So in one of those sites there is one price tag, in other is other. In one there is one value proposition of being eco-friendly. In other it's another value proposition of being local, or I don't know what's there. And you actually can test by running little online ad campaigns which one is more sticky. I've used it quite a lot in the past, and it was very efficient to figure out what are those value propositions, price points even, your customers are reacting to. Pre-sale, this is the pre-ordering. You can, even if you don't have something ready, even with the B2B customers, you can always try to sell it and ask money for it. Of course, on some conditions, and lots of other prerequisites, and money back if needed and everything. But if people are ordering and willing to buy something you don't have yet, most likely this is something they might need for real. Crowdfunding, this is just a pre-sale pressed in a campaign. Don't want to spend much time on crowdfunding. Just to mention that if you have physical products, we always associate crowdfunding with those specific pages, like sites like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, but I have quite a lot of evidence that actually running the crowdfunding campaign on your own site or landing page is most of occasions much more beneficial to you than using those crowdfunding platforms. Last one, mock sales, is that the same as a pre-sale, but you just end up with the aim is not selling something and going in that far, but just having a reaction and ideally collecting some emails. A pop-up store is just something that you offer for a very short period of time in anticipation that people will kind of fear to miss this out and will be prompted and triggered into some decision to try, to buy, or mostly to try, I would say. Okay, and the last part is letter of intent. Obviously, it's a testing method, so always for all your suppliers, partners, and also B2B customers, try that they're putting their you know, willingness to collaborate on a paper. It's not legally binding, it's emotionally binding if the company is big, and it is clear sign because the bigger companies don't sign the papers, any papers they bring forward. So it's a clear sign that this is something that they're interested in. Wizard of Oz, remember the concierge, this is the younger brother of concierge, the same thing. You fake your product with your service, but in this time you hide it. You do it probably very, very quickly. And your customers think there is an automated something behind the digital curtain. Okay, this is left for the when we meet each other on this on your Miro. There are list of those all the experiments, and try to look through and think of what you can realistically do and in what order, and that's what something we'll be discussing later. So similarly as you plan the tests, you can evaluate the results by again structuring it into that was the hypothesis, that's what we saw, the expected things, unexpected things, what we learned from there, and that what we're going to do next in order to build our new product, service, and the process. Okay, and the last thing from my side, be very critical and careful with those outcomes and results. Because if we really were right with all your assumptions, that should just move on and build it further. If you're not right with your assumptions, but you saw something like interesting sideways, move the direction, called a pivot. And then if you don't see it going anywhere, just stop working on that. It's equally honorable to stop working on your new product or service or process ideas out of the gathering the negative evidence as it would be the launching them, right? It's not about you're not being perseverant or something. It's perfectly okay. All right, I will leave it to you with that. That's exactly for the next one-on-one sessions, but I'm not elaborating. Maybe here you will see that. Actually, I want you to try to think in your strategic and also hypothesizing, product building, new idea building process as far as you can, and then just come and we discuss it. Okay, I think that's the best way to do it. All right, so sorry for my not metered workshop, bit hectic. I can probably somehow like make it up for maybe offering some extra one-on-one next year. Probably not. That's the idea, because I think it was quite a lot of information and quite a compressed time frame, and not all of you were prepared for that. But thank you so much. Yeah, do all that thing. Any questions? Quick questions I still can take. I have exactly 2 minutes because then another call is waiting for me. So which was supposed to start at 5, but they promised to wait until that. Same. And if any questions, please ask. Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that for the 101 we will fill the task 5.
Sorry.
For the 101 meeting that we will have with you, for that time we need to fill the task 5.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would love to, because I think that's a quite a practical thing what you can then later take on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, but once again, don't feel ashamed or bad that you're maybe not doing, not haven't done everything. We'll have time to sort it out. Don't worry. Yeah. All right. Have a great evening, afternoon, whatever. Cheers.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you all. Bye.